this whole notion of manifesting.
To create the same scenarios in our life until we really get the lesson.
That's really at the core of what this is all about, isn't it?
And taking the time to, sit and write down your affirmations.
Repetition compulsion of continuing to find themselves in the same type of situation.
Well, welcome to Climbing the Corporate Ladder Without Breaking a Heel. I'm your host and your coach, Dr. Cynthia. With over 30 years in the corporate world as a single mom, cancer survivor, and often the only woman in the C-suite, I understand the balancing act high-achieving women face. Now an executive coach and international speaker, my mission is to embolden every woman in the C-suite or on the rise to claim her agency and challenge the norms holding her back. Tailored for ambitious professional women, this show offers candid conversations with powerful business leaders sharing their real stories of success and failure. If you're ready to look up and step up, you're in the right place. Join us right now as we invest in your future today.
Hey guys, it's your coach, Dr. Cynthia here. I have such an incredible guest for you today. We are going to be talking with Latha J. And when I tell you about her background, this is something that I have been recently passionate about, but listen to the background of this incredible woman. She has degrees in psychology and biology, also went to medical school, then decided maybe she wanted to make a change. So she enrolled in the Fashion Institute of Technology, launched 2 fashion companies that were wildly successful, got her yoga certification, learned meditation, tried journalism and photography, also successful, and worked in tech. All of this before she found herself, which we're going to be diving into and learning more about. She is the author of Law of Attraction, a guided journal for manifesting your deepest desires, and Shadow Work journal for self-love, powerful prompts and exercises to integrate your shadow and embrace your inner child. So with all of that, so much to talk about. Latha, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Cynthia, for having me. I'm really looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah. This is something that I have been really doing a lot of soul searching around over the last several months. And so the timing for me personally is super interesting. I want to start, though, with how did you ultimately find your calling? So, the woman listening, one of the things that we talk about a lot is figure out what your next is and go for it. You sampled lots of things, all very successfully. How did you ultimately land here and find your calling 15 years ago?
Not all of them were successful.
Okay, fair enough.
I want to be clear on that because I think that sometimes people go into things and feel like I'm trying so many things and they're all failing. But I want to say that there's so much information that you learn during those failures. During the things that don't work out, it's just as valid as the things that do work out. So I think it's really important for people when they're looking for their next thing to really do the things that bring them joy. And that might be a multitude of different things. And for me, it was when I was doing all of these things, I found commonalities between each thing. So after something, I when I was working as a photographer, there was things that I loved about it and things I didn't love about it. And I would kind of just make little notes about it. Oh, I love working with people. I love being able to capture the art of it, the energy in an event, like, at New York Fashion Week, the energy is so incredible. It's like art, right? Mm-hmm. The parts that I didn't love about it, I would make notes about that. And then the next thing that I was working, I loved working in fashion, or I loved working in tech. I loved the community and connecting with all of the people and learning new ideas from them. But I didn't like X, Y, and Z, right? And then from thing to thing to thing, I saw a common thread. And for me, the common thread was community. It was people. It was education. It was this understanding of these different concepts that I had grown up with. I had grown up with the ideas of spirituality and manifesting and meditation, things like that from birth. That was what my grandmother had taught me since the day I was born. And it was just so beautiful to be able to share this with people in all walks of life.
Right.
And that's really how I was guided towards my calling. But it only happened because I followed the places that I was the most happy in. I followed my bliss.
Yeah. So there's so much packed in there that I want to come back to, but I want to make a point for the women listening. We talk a lot about natural talent on this podcast, and you beautifully expressed. Sometimes you have to trial and error some things to figure out where are those ultimate gifts. When we think about ultimate gifts, it's affirming, so it feels good when I'm doing it. It's consistent. It always feels good when I'm doing it. It's spontaneous. I can't help myself, and I do it with excellence. And it sounds like through your exploration, there were bits and pieces of things that you said, that's affirming, and I can do that with excellence, but maybe this part of it requires more than I'd like to do. So I love there's no failure in exploring and finding what really ultimately brings you joy at your core. So when you ultimately, and you had this amazing upbringing where you were able to see that beauty around manifestation really worked for you, but you also, I read about that you had a lot of friends coming to you and saying, how are you having the successes that you are having? And that was also a part of kind of finding your way.
Yeah, absolutely. When I had left medical school, I didn't have a plan. So I kind of just followed my bliss, did a bunch of things that kind of made me happy. I was interested in, pursued these things, finding the commonalities. But I had success in the majority of things. I had taken up photography, and I think it was within 2 months, I was a photographer at Fashion Week, New York Fashion Week at Lincoln Center at the time. And it was incredible. And my friends were like, how did you do that? That makes sense,
Right.
And I told them I was going to, they're like, okay, yeah, I'm sure you are, And then when my pictures were published in a newspaper and all of these things that were happening, they were just like, wait a second, how did you do that? And I was like, oh, this is how you do it. What are you talking about? Well, you didn't even know about this? And it just became this thing that I would talk to about people. And I was so happy to share with them in regards to how they can shift their lives. And I noticed that when I was sharing this with them, then they would come back to me and say, oh my God, what you told me worked,
Right.
I was doing things, and then my life started to change, and we would have these deeper conversations, and it would go, so many levels deeper, and their lives would just blossom and transform. And it was just so beautiful to witness. I started to notice, wait a second, there's something there for me. I really enjoy doing this. I really enjoy helping these people. And I love seeing that their lives are transforming in such beautiful ways. Maybe this is what I should do.
Yeah. And I've just been dabbling I'm a novice at this. And I think that there's likely a person listening who also is maybe new to meditation, to this whole notion of manifesting. So talk a little bit about what does that mean? So when we just big picture, and then I want to dig into the how part, but when we talk about manifestation, what does that mean to the woman who's listening that's saying, I'm intrigued, but this is new?
Yeah, I think that sometimes the word manifesting can feel very out there and maybe a little bit woo-woo, but I'm telling you, it's really based in neuroscience. It's that our thoughts are then creating our reality around us, as simply possibly put, right? As we are thinking thoughts, they're creating and ingrating beliefs within us. These beliefs are how we then show up in the world, and how the world then interacts with us in our experiences. If you think about it like that, it's a little bit more practical, and it's a little bit less from the woo-woo side. Although I love the woo-woo side too.
Right.
So both, but I like to explain it like that so people can just dip the first toe in and understand, because you have the thoughts, then the thoughts thought many times become a belief. Then that belief is how you see the world and how you interact with the world and how the world interacts with you.
Yeah. What's so fascinating about that to me is because I use that model as a social psychologist, I recognize that, thoughts, that those perceptions create self-talk, which creates behavior. Mm-hmm. So often, in how I have used it in the past, it's really been about how you're projecting yourself to others and showing up. And how that reflects back to you. So if you already are doubting yourself, even when you think you're masking it, you're probably showing up not as quite as secure as you otherwise would. You're really taking it to another level. When you're talking about manifestation, it's not just about how you're showing up and putting yourself out there, but what you're attracting back. And so when you talk about in your first book, the law of attraction. So tell us more about this law of attraction. Again, some people have probably heard that, but that's really at the core of what this is all about, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So the law of attraction states that you are attracting everything into your life, that you're manifesting and in the space of creation for everything that is happening. And the energy that you're putting out is essentially creating and attracting the things to you. Right? It's this concept that we are the ultimate creators of our life. I think that sometimes people can feel like life is happening to me and they feel kind
Hmm.
of victimized by life. Then there's like the next level of thinking where it's like life is happening for me, everything is happening for me, and it's amazing. And then there's one more level up, and that's I'm creating all my whole life. Life is happening of my creation, right? And that's the space that manifesting really exists in, is that everything in our life, whether it's good or bad, is of our creation.
Wow, that is so compelling. And when you think about the woman who is feeling stuck or stagnant or restless in her position or right professionally, which is what a lot of the women and men that are tuning in are really thinking about it from that perspective. This really applies in all aspects of your professional life as well as your personal life, which we'll get to. So, walk me through from a practical perspective. I was looking at your 24/7 manifestation method, and that really struck me because I thought this is not just, I mean, I'm all about, I'm leaning into the woo woo lately. But I tend to be pretty analytical, right? So it's kind of a both and for me, and it sounds like it is for you with the, having pursued medicine initially. So talk to me about from a practical perspective. How does this 24/7 method work?
Yeah, so I teach manifestation from the practical side of things. And like I said, I interweave the woo in there, right? But I really see it from a neuroscientist perspective of how this works. And the 24/7 method is a method I created many years ago and have worked with thousands of people with, right? And in this method, we are very simply writing our manifestation down 24 times in the morning and 24 times in the evening. 24 times in the morning as soon as we wake up and right before we go to sleep. So this timing is particular. It's kind of like the brain hack, the biohack of manifesting, because it's during this time, it's called a hypnagogic state. And it's at this time that our subconscious, our mind is the most impressionable. This is between our rest and wakefulness. It's that middle ground, that gray
Right.
area in
Yeah.
which we're writing down our manifestations. So as our subconscious is the most impressionable, we're impressing upon it. So we're influencing it with thought. We do this 24 times in the morning, 24 times in the evening for 7 days continuously. And we are really forming new neuronal connections within our mind. And we're doing that through psychoneuromotor rehearsal. And that essentially is a big word that means you're writing things down physically. So it's really involving your physical body, your thought process, and you're doing it during this specific time.
So say that again. It's psycho neuro
Motor.
motor rehearsal. Yeah, that makes sense. I love a good evidence based backing to this stuff because I think that that is where the beauty lies of the person that's a bit more left brain that wants to come at this from a give me the facts and the science behind it, and the person that maybe has the more right brain, a little more open, a little more creative that says, yeah, I'll try it all. So the 24 things. So what would be an example of a prompt, a professional prompt that a woman could use? And then they write that thing, set 24, that same
Yep.
aspiration or whatever it is. So, what would be an example of a prompt?
Yeah, it would be the same affirmation that you're writing 24 times in the morning, 24 times in the evening for the 7 days. You're not making a
Okay,
list. It's nothing like that. It's
got
the
it.
same. So when I write affirmations, I always create them with an I am statement. So I start as I am. I add in a emotion, something that I'm really connected to. Usually mine is happy and grateful. And I connect that with now that, because I want to make sure that my affirmation is in the positive present tense and not in the future. It's not someday I will. It's not wishful or hopeful thinking. It's we're really declaring it in the present. So for a woman that is maybe career oriented and looking for a promotion or really looking to create that or looking to increase their salary, it might look something like, I am so happy and grateful now that I am senior editor of this magazine, whatever the thing is that they'd like. Or I am so happy
Yes.
and grateful now that I have an additional $500 in my bank. I am so happy and grateful now that I have a faithful, loving husband. Whatever it is that you're looking to achieve, each of those is completely individual, right? So your statement, you're just writing it again and again and again, 24 times in the morning and 24 times in the evening. And this really reinforces that thought. So within the 7 days, we're creating this incredible foundation for this belief to be well ingrained within you so that it influences then your actions and how you show up in the world. And it makes a world of difference. I've had people come to retreats with me in Costa Rica on journey retreats and in our journey program and different groups and things like that, that have gone through the 7 days kind of apprehensive, I'll say.
Right.
Yeah, what's going to happen with this? Oh my God, it's a lot of writing, having those whatever thoughts.
Yes.
Like, okay, let's get through it. And they do it and they complete it. And then, I'll hear back from them in 2 or 3 months and saying, you'll never believe this, and I'm always like, I probably will. Let's hear it.
Right.
And it's like, you'll never believe this. I met this person that I was manifesting. You'll never believe this. I had written that I was going to get out of debt, that I was going to be financially free. And, I have in 2 more months, I'm on the plan. I'm going to be financially free. And I'm just like, and it's always the thought of, I never thought that this would have happened. They always say that. I never thought that this could have happened before. And they're like, I have no idea how this worked.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, it worked because you worked it. You created a new thought pattern for yourself. So you showed up in the world different. You acted different. Things were different for you and different things came to you because of it.
It blows me away and I love it so much. And I want to just emphasize the fact that your I am statement is the thing that you are projecting that you want to be, right? So if you don't have $10,000 in your bank account and you need the $10,000 is I am so grateful that I have $10,000 in my bank account. So
right.
Go ahead.
It's not a projection. I would call it an embodiment. You're really calling that in and awakening it within you, because the belief in manifesting is that everything is yours. It's a matter of what we're allowing into ourselves or not, right? It's a matter of what we're creating for our own experience or not. But it's almost like going to a store and having access to everything and anything.
Yes.
And it's a matter of what experience am I choosing? So if you're creating an experience, that is not where you want to be right now, it's empowering knowing that you created that. And I know that when I say that, people are like, oh man, that's shitty. Like, why would I ever create this? Why would I create this? And I definitely had that moment because I was coming out of a terrible marriage. I was divorced in my early 20s. And I just thought, how could I have created that? Like, what? That's insanity. And I had to go through this kind of grieving process of the loss and coming to reckon with, wow, I created that from the space of really not loving myself, of having this like deep heartbreak within myself, of having this own self-hatred that I had to heal, right? And it was like a process of healing that occurred before I could even have a stable relationship or a marriage. And now, I met my husband, we've been married for over a decade at this point, but it's like, I had to go through that and I had to understand that the failures of the past were of my creation, so I could understand that the successes of my future would be of my creation. It's so empowering to know it.
And there's so much grace that comes in giving yourself grace around those things that have happened. You use your divorce. I was in a really toxic relationship for 5 years. And the me today looks back at that and thinks, how in the world I'm a smart person. How in the world did I allow myself to be in that type of narcissistic situation, toxic situation for so long? And for the longest time, I was really angry about that, right? I was angry at myself. I was angry at him. And it wasn't until I was, and perhaps still working on it to some degree, but grateful for the experience and what I was able to learn from that experience, because I chose to be in that experience. But I've also then come out of that, the other side of how did that happen and what was I seeking? And it's informed me going forward, right? It's created a new,
And I love that you're sharing this because you really ended the space of repetition compulsion. So it's this idea that we continue to create the same scenarios in our life until we really get the lesson. So you might go through it as, multiple failed marriages or relationships. And you're like, how could each of these relationships fail in a similar manner, but with completely different people?
Right.
Or it's like you go from one job to another and to another, and your boss sucks the same way, and you're just like, what is going on? It's called repetition compulsion. It's like you're being compelled to repeat these things in your life because there's a deeper lesson there for you to learn. So the example that you gave is absolutely perfect because you were reflective on that relationship and you were able to understand what was going on within you and what you wanted to create new in the future, what you really learned from that experience, with maybe the contrast of, wow, I never want to do that again.
Right.
I want something completely different. And that's what then you've gone on to do.
Yeah, I love your example of the boss or the company. Because for the woman listening that's saying, oh my gosh, that's me, right? I'm that person listening that's saying, I had a crappy boss before that, for whatever reason, and I've got this crappy boss again. What are they doing that is this repetition compulsion of continuing to find themselves in the same type of situation? And how do they manifest something new and different? So can you start with the manifestation when you are maybe haven't quite learned the lesson yet? So for the woman listening that says, yeah, apparently that's what's happening to me. Whether it's personally or professionally, I really want something different. Is there more to sort of understanding why they ended up, or is it just breaking the cycle and manifesting something new?
Well, it's understanding the cycle. When we understand the cycle, it's a lesson, right?
Right.
So that breaks it essentially from happening again. It's going to end the repetition. Once we actually really understand the lesson, we are different. We make different choices. And then the cycle is not going to repeat because we don't allow it to repeat.
Yes.
So this whole thought process is really it's self-empowerment. It's us understanding that we can then change whatever it is and create whatever it is in our future. And one of the things is with manifesting is you're manifesting all the time. You're manifesting 24/7, whether you are conscious of it or unconscious of it. The way that I teach manifesting is that we want to be conscious of it because we want to consciously create our life in a specific manner. A lot of times when we are manifesting from the unconscious state, which is happening all the time, we're manifesting from the default state, which is one of protection. So if we have this belief within us that, oh, if we go for that job promotion rejection and it's going to be terrible and embarrassing and scary, then that's the default state that we're functioning from, right? Or if it's like, if I speak up, I'm going to get hurt. That's the default state that we're functioning from. So our life is then being created in that manner. When we're in this conscious creation, we're creating our life the way that we want it to, and it's a completely different experience.
I love the idea of conscious creation, and I love that you reframed my projecting comment to time out. It's really not projecting; it's creating. It's conscious creation. I think that is such words matter, and that's such an important difference. The other thing I was curious about, and the relationship of them, is your second book, Integrate Your Shadow, and the energy work around that. Can you say more about that, and what is your shadow? What does that mean?
Yeah, so shadow is maybe like another term to really talk about your limiting beliefs, or this space of you that you might regret or feel embarrassed by or want to suppress in some way. That's our shadow. And our shadow doesn't necessarily go away. It's pretty much always there. It might speak up all the time. The thing about shadow work is that we start to understand and see our shadow so that when it does pop up with that belief of, oh, you're not good enough for that job promotion. You're not good enough to ask that guy out. You're not good enough to make more money. We say, thank you, shadow, for your opinion. I got it. And we make our own choice rather than going by the default state and allowing the shadow to pull us in one direction, which is probably not where we want to consciously go.
Yes.
So it's a true understanding of ourselves, our beliefs, and all of that so that we can make a different choice rather than making a choice from an idea or a belief that formed usually in childhood. Usually I tell people to look in these 3 different time frames in their life between the ages of 3 and 5, 5 and 10, and 10 and 15. That's usually where our limits, our limiting beliefs are really created. And it's not necessarily based on a specific event. It can be, but it's based on how you interpreted that event and the idea that you created, the belief that you created in that moment. I can share something that's come up for me if you'd like.
Please, I'd love, yes.
Yeah, so as about a 11-year-old child, I really wanted to be a singer. Selena was really big in, she's very popular at that time, and I wanted to be just like her. So I had joined the school choir, and it was one day during choir practice. There was about 40 of us standing on the bleachers in the auditorium, and my music teacher pointed up to me and she said, "Latha, come here." And I was so excited. I probably floated down off those bleachers.
It's your moment. It's your moment of fame.
I'm gonna be like Selena. Me and Selena are gonna be singing. So excited. I come down to the auditorium stage. She looks me right in the eyes and she goes, "Latha, you are a terrible singer. You probably shouldn't even speak. Go and sit down." I sat down in the auditorium chair, and of course, these 40 kids behind me on the bleachers were just bursting out in laughter, and I could have spontaneously combusted in that moment. I could have just turned into ash. I was so embarrassed. And in that moment, I created the belief, the shadow, the limiting belief that she was right, that my voice was bad, that I shouldn't speak up for myself. And that's how I continued to live my life for the next decade plus. And it wasn't until I was in my mid-20s that I was like realizing that I had this limiting belief, and I could see that I didn't have to hold that anymore, and I could make a different choice.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And in the story, a lot of times when I share the story, people are like, "That music teacher should have gotten fired." And
I know. I want to go kick her ass. I'm like,
and regardless of any judgment towards anybody else in the story, yes. I want to say that there could have been another child having the same exact experience who could have walked out of that auditorium and said, flipped through the bird and been like, "What do you know? Nothing." And it would have not have affected them the same way. Right? So it's not about necessarily the variables in the situation. It's about how you interpreted the situation and the belief that then you created within yourself.
So powerful. So powerful. And I've heard other people that are really active in this space even talk about, I'd be curious how you feel about that, is having gratitude toward that moment because of the later teaching that it created for you. Do you buy into that philosophy that having gratitude for that teacher that said that awful thing? It's really hard for me to go there, but they said, because I have somewhat of an example to share, and they're like, "Yeah, have gratitude for that because of what it taught you later." And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to sit on that for a while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so somewhat, I'll say it like this. I understand it as there can only really be one true leading emotion of any situation. So if I replace my sense of anger and hatred and despair for this teacher with a sense of gratitude, wow, that's a lot less inflammatory in my life.
That's right. Right.
If I'm able to just soothe this moment in my life and just see it a little bit differently, that brings me a lot of peace. And any kind of sense of gratitude or forgiveness or whatever doesn't have anything to do with her. Doesn't have anything to do with the other people in the scenario. It has to do everything with me.
Yes.
The gratitude comes back to me and is feeding me and is nourishing who I am and giving me peace, right? So when I look at a gratitude for a situation, yes, I'm grateful for that situation because I learned so much. And I needed that area of contrast to be able to then see, like, wait a second, this is the flip side of things. And a lot of times when our limiting beliefs come up for us and we hold on to something, the thought that my voice didn't matter, imagine if I didn't get past that, right? Because me now as an author, as a public speaker, right, as a social media person, literally my videos have been seen by billions of people all around the world. Every single day I get hundreds of emails and messages and DMs saying like, "Wow, your book changed my life," or "This video that you made changed my life. I'm part of this group or this challenge, or I'm in this course." And it's just like blown my mind. My life will never be the same. Yeah. And I'm like, that would have never happened if I wasn't able to get past my own limiting belief.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And those things can be so formative in other ways too. The story that comes to my mind when I was, looking at this 10 to 15 years, when I was about 15 years old, I was with two girlfriends, and they always got better grades than I did. I was busy. I went to a very, very tiny high school, so you could be in everything. So I was in cheerleading and softball and choir and all the things, right? They needed people. There weren't enough to go around. So I remember distinctly saying to my two girlfriends, I've decided what I want to major in college. I am super excited. I'm going to be a broadcasting major. And the one girlfriend, again, both straight A students, I'm a C student. I didn't find my academic prowess until college. But the one girlfriend says to me, "Oh, I can just see I can just see Cindy, lightning on the right and thunder on the left, kind of like I'm this ditzy weather person." And I thought, wow. And here's what that and other moments like that did for me that I've been having to unwind. And it'd be interesting for that professional, ambitious woman that's listening, and the relatability to this is I went very into my ego drive. I went very into my head, and I rushed through college and made sure I had incredible grades. And then I went on to get an MBA, and, I was constantly pursuing academics at the highest level and becoming very involved in sort of research and evidence and things that really spoke to the facts of situations, which in some ways was really counter to who I am at my core. I was this very outgoing, more emotional, more right brain, but I literally changed the way I showed up. And that served me in corporate America because I was most often the only woman in a male dominated industry at the table. But what I'm finding now is I'm having to work really hard to have this sort of ego death and tap into that raw, authentic heart center of who I am at my core. And so it had a really long tail. And in some ways it served me, but it's not serving me as well now at this point in my life as it did earlier. And so it's interesting to think about how formative those things can be and how much that awareness is critical. And how does manifestation sort of help you make those shifts that you need to make?
You said something very crucial here, and I want to point that out because this belief served you for so long and brought you success and joy and fulfillment, and now it's changed. So it wasn't always a limiting belief. Right. At one point, it was an empowering belief. It was something that really drove you, and now that same belief has shifted in your mind in a different way. It's occurring in your world as a different way. So sometimes we can have beliefs that affect us in different ways, in different scenarios and different phases of our life. So don't think that just because you've had this belief forever that it's not limiting, or it is limiting. It can have differently. And now if you want to change it or you see it as limiting, you can shift that. It can be something different for you.
I love that. I love that. And in your Integrate Your Shadow, that is a book of prompts. Is that right? So different ways to journal and think about what might be standing in your way, what might be the barriers, and how to move past those, how to change that mental model.
Yeah, in the journal, Shadow Work Journal of Self-Love, it's actually full of different prompts for people to actually engage with the shadow work, right? It shows lots of different examples on how you can do that internal work and do it with compassion. One of my ideas in regards to shadow work is to be as compassionate as possible. And one of the reasons that I really move forward with shadow work in this manner is that when we are compassionate, we're more likely to continue to actually do it, rather than if we come into shadow work and we're like, this was wrong and and that sucked, and we come at it with this heat and it burns out. It's hot and heavy and it runs out very quickly. The thing about shadow work is that shadow work is continuous as long as you're alive. There is going to be something that triggers you, something that you project upon in the world, something that really, gets you into that cycle of repetition compulsion. And you're going to have the gifts, the tools, the ideas and insight to be able to navigate those things. But all of that is a part of shadow work. It's a part of us really coming back to ourselves and being in integrity with ourselves and having compassion.
And giving compassion first to yourself is what I hear you saying, right? Giving yourself compassion. We can express compassion to others sometimes more naturally than the compassion that we give to ourselves, particularly as women.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We spend our lives being the caretaker, loving our partner, loving our children, loving, really caring and nurturing at our jobs. And then, when it comes to the end of the day, it's like our cup is completely empty. We've poured and nurtured into everybody else, but then there's nothing left for ourselves.
Sure.
And really having that self-compassion and doing the self-care and taking the time to, sit and write down your affirmations or meditate for a little bit, or just be in silence maybe for a moment, whatever it is that's going to help you to rejuvenate yourself and fill your cup is so important.
So I recently introduced the 7-minute pivot, and it doesn't replace manifestation in terms of the 24/7 or meditation, or a lot of people do daily devotionals, things of that nature, journaling. It's additive, right? They go really hand in hand, where the 7-minute pivot is set an alarm for 7 minutes. Your prompt is typically, what is the thing that's either the feeling that I'm waking up with, that I'm having, that feels like it's going to be a barrier or something that's getting in the way of fulfilling whatever it is I want. Get underneath the feeling and then pick one small thing you can do today to move in a different direction, to slightly pivot. It seems like that would be beautifully complemented with, then do your manifestation, your 24/7, and write the thing that you've come up with, right? 24 times for the 7 days. One of the things I hear, and frankly, one of the things that, if I'm being honest with myself, I struggle with, as I mentioned openly, that, I'm learning how to meditate. I'm learning how to sort of calm my mind. I have been for 30 years, my mind is going 24/7. I'm up at 5, my lights are on. What is the advice for the person that says, I can't do yoga, it's too slow for me, which I've said, meditation or sitting quiet, I can't, my mind I can't shut it off. What are the ways to get started? Because it may not be perfect out of the gate, right?
Yeah. Oh, no, it's not. I'm a lifelong meditator. I'm almost 40 years old, meditating almost my whole entire life now. And my mind doesn't shut off.
Yeah.
It's not supposed to. Your mind shuts off when you're dead, otherwise
Right.
your mind is on and it's going, and thoughts are absolutely natural. I have very good friends who are even Buddhist monks that have been meditating way longer than I have, for 60 plus years, or they're in their 80s now. And they tell me the same thing too. Distractions happen, and that's a sign of life. And it's okay to be distracted in your meditation. The thing about meditation is, like, you're not making the distraction wrong, and you're not allowing the distraction to consume you. And those are the two key elements in meditation that actually help us to then be ready for life, right? Because in life, there's chaos that's happening all the time. And if we're allowing this chaos to pull us in a direction, okay, well, then we're moving off of our course. If we're allowing the chaos that's around us to distract us in some manner, then, we're shifting from where we are. But just like in meditation, when that distraction pops up, when I'm sitting there meditating and, I'm saying my mantra, sat nam something, or whatever my mantra is for the day, and the meditation comes up and it's like, you need to thaw that chicken before dinner, and it's always something about it. It's like, oh, did you feed the kids, or whatever the case is? And I'm like, oh man, is it? And I say, wait, that's a distraction. I see that that's a distraction. I name it. And then I return back to my center and I continue on, sat nam. And then guess what? 2 seconds later, it's like, okay, but there's acorns on the deck and you have to, you got to sweep up the deck. And I'm like, that's a distraction. Sat nam. So now what I did here was not say, oh my God, the chicken, I got to thaw the chicken and allow it to pull me. Also, The other thing I did was the thought about the thawing the chicken come up. I didn't say, oh my gosh, this chicken is distracting me, I hate it, and try to suppress it and push it down, putting more negative energy into it. No.
Right.
I just named it, identified for what it was, and then I reshifted my focus.
And the other thing you did, correct me if I'm wrong, but the other thing I heard is that you didn't beat yourself up for it. You didn't sit there and spend another wasted however many minutes going, gosh, I'm just not good at this. Look at me thinking about chicken. I'm supposed to be doing my meditation. I just stink at this, right? More negative, wasted energy. You name it, you acknowledge it, you set it aside, and you get back to business. And when it happens again, my sister said something like that to me. I was telling her she is a health coach and a yoga instructor. And I was telling her I was trying to do this. And I think she thought it was kind of funny because we're very opposite in that way. I've never been one to be very, like, be able to sit in my silence. And she said, she's like, some people, they can't give, if you can sit and focus on your breathing for 30 seconds, praise that. Like, be proud of yourself that you were able to kind of stay with it and build up, and, it'll get easier, but you'll always have something that stands in the way. The thing is, don't be down on yourself about it.
Oh yeah, there's always going to be a distraction. There's always going to be another thought. There's always going to be something that's coming in. And I mean, that's not throughout your whole, if you sit down for a 20-minute meditation, maybe in the beginning that happens a lot in the whole throughout. But as you start to, meditate more and you build that muscle of meditation,
yes,
you're able to drop in deeper quicker. Right. And then it's like you're there in your space of meditation for a longer period of time. And meditation just allows for like a sense of listening. I often liken it to a conversation that we're having with a higher power. A lot of times we're in the space of prayer and we're asking God, like, God, what is the answer here? What is happening? Like, why is this happening in my life? I really need guidance. What's my next step? We're asking for a lot, right? We're asking a lot of questions. And then we get frustrated because we're like, I'm not getting the answer. Yet we haven't taken the time in that conversation to be quiet, to listen to what the answer is, right? So meditation is the opposite of that. Prayer is the asking and meditation is the listening. So when we're really listening for that answer to come into us, it's through meditation. It's through that silence that we get those divine downloads, that we then have that insight, that we allow that clearing of our space in our minds, for something to come in. And sometimes, I have these great grand ideas and creativity that just flows to me in a moment of meditation. And sometimes it'll be that I've cleared the space, and then 3 days later in the shower, all of a sudden I get this insight that comes through, right?
Yes.
But it's because of the meditation. It's because I did the weeding. It's because sometimes I think about it also, like if I'm driving down a dirt road and it's like rainy and muddy and there's a lot of stuff coming up on my windshield. That's life, right? Mm-hmm. I'm going through life and I'm getting all of the societal expectations and judgments and whatever coming upon me. And then meditation is my big windshield wipers that allows me to have some clarity as to know, okay, this is the direction that I'm going. It allows for that clarity of my vision.
Yes.
So then I can choose, am I going down this road or am I going down that road? But I have that insight available.
Such a good metaphor, because I'm a very visual person. So for me, that's such a beautiful metaphor. It does take me back to when the golf ball hit my windshield the other day and put a giant hole in it, which was a little distracting. So one of the things that just permeates through everything that I'm hearing is also this idea of self-compassion, giving yourself grace, staying with the practice, taking the time. So when we think about women's health, and we think about not only how this can bring, how manifestation can bring to you the things, attract the things that you desire and you're choosing for yourself. Mm-hmm. But how have you seen this just from a holistic perspective impact women's health? Because so often, again, we are so quick to serve others and so missing the opportunity to serve ourselves.
Yeah. The majority of issues that are in a body, any body, women or men, it starts from a space of inflammation, right? There's some inflamed cell and then it mutates and it forms, it affects our arteries and it's hypertension. It affects, some muscle cells or something like that and it becomes a cancer tumor. It becomes, it all starts, the root of every disease is inflammation. And when we are in a stressed state, guess what? Our body has a higher likelihood to be inflamed. So when we're doing practices as in self-care, taking time for ourselves, refilling our cup, meditating, reducing our stress to some level, that is a direct act that we are doing for our health. It is directly correlated. And I know that sometimes that connection can be difficult for people to make because they'll say like, yeah, of course I'm going to go for a run because that's going to help me with my health. Or, of course I'm going to, go to the gym or do some sit-ups or whatever, because that you can see that in the physical sense.
Yes.
But every cell of our body is impacted by the stress that we take on. And when we are able to reduce that stress, when we are feeling confident in ourselves, when we are feeling good and we love our bodies for the way that they are, It's a different type of energy that we're putting out into the world, and also that is affecting every cell in our body.
Yeah. Gosh, I love that, and I love the fact that it's just one more reason that this makes so much sense. And I will tell you, to the person listening, I have been really working on this law of attraction since starting, well, in the last several months, and it is working. I mean, it is bizarre in terms of it. Part of it for me was going from chasing to attracting, right? I was chasing things. And when I sort of put a pause and started to lean into this notion of attracting and manifesting and meditating, and again, I'm learning, but I already am seeing the fruits of that. And it is one of those, like, this really works. My kids giggle because they're like, Mom's gone all hippy dippy in the last several months. Who knew? Who would have expected it? I'm like, listen, it's working for business. It's working personally. So
And I love that point. I love that point you just made about, not chasing and attracting. If you think about it, if you're chasing a dog, it's going to run and you might catch up to it, but it's a lot of effort to catch that puppy, right?
Yes.
Rather, if you put out its favorite treat and you sit on the porch, guess what? That puppy's going to come right up to you. You're attracting it to you.
Yes.
And it's like so easy and joyous, and you get some, cuddles out of it, and it's like wonderful. So it's a different experience. You might then have the same outcome. We might reach the dog that we were looking to reach, and the effort there, the journey might have been much more joyous or much more strenuous. And it's up to you. You're going to chase, you're going to attract.
Right.
Yeah. I love that. I love that you're saying that.
And probably a better experience for the puppy.
Absolutely.
for the person on the other end of it. So it's a win-win. This has been, Latha, I could talk to you for hours and hours, and we're going to have to stay connected because I'm going to need to sign up. You offer one-on-one virtual coaching, and you have both the books out that we mentioned we'll have in the show notes as well. Do you want to give us your socials so that, or the easiest place to reach you for the person that wants to follow up and learn more and potentially bring you on as their spiritual guide and coach?
Yeah, absolutely. So I do offer one-on-one. Sometimes I get booked very much ahead of time. So like right now, I think our openings are starting in December. So there's a bit of a wait list, but I will say that I do have an incredible group program. It's called The Journey. And I always encourage people to join that first because it's relatively low cost on a monthly basis. You get 4 sessions a month, and we talk about incredible topics throughout the month. I mean, today we have someone coming in this week that's talking to us about the cards of destiny, which is loosely based on tarot, but it's like this whole world that even I had no idea about. We've had people come in and talk to us about Reiki. I do sessions on setting boundaries and really creating your own spiritual practice. Like, we have some really incredible sessions every single week. And we have an incredible community that is a sisterhood that's formed to just have support in our own growth and shifts that are happening in our own lives. And it's really been a beautiful journey that it's evolved into. And I've now been hosting it for 4 years. And I would highly recommend anybody that is interested in working with me to first come and join that and just kind of feel the vibe out a little bit. Also, anytime that I do have one-on-one sessions that open up, the first people that get access to that is people in the Journey group. Anytime that I'm hosting an incredible retreat in Costa Rica or anywhere in the world, the Journey group gets first dibs before it's open to public ever at all. So a lot of times it doesn't even go to be open to anybody else or have access to anything else because it's first to the Journey group. So if you are looking to work with me, to learn more, to connect with an incredible spiritual community, to have support, to understand and be incorporated into this incredible village, I would highly recommend that you join the group, the Journey group. And right now I actually have a special going on, so it's only $33 a month. And I mean, that is just...
Yes. Why would you not? That sounds amazing. I'm going to be checking that out, and they can sign up for that on your website.
Yes, absolutely.
Is that the best place to?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram, TikTok, on YouTube and Facebook, all of that. Look for my name. It's Latha J, Latha Jay. And yeah, you can always send me an email at hello@lathaj.com, or you can find more information on my website, which is lathaj.com.
And we'll put all of that in the show notes so that you have that if you're driving right now or listening as you're on a run or on a walk. I love to end my podcast with just a quick question for you of what would you tell the woman listening to stop doing, start doing, and continue doing?
Okay. I would tell you, to tell the women listening to stop worrying so much, right? And stressing out because it's really not impacting anything in a positive way. I would encourage you to start a meditation practice, whatever that looks like, and really focus and get clarity on your goals of what you'd like in the future. It's really the foundation of manifesting.
Yeah.
When you have that clarity, you know the direction that you want to head in. Like we're talking about that car, you have that clarity to make that decision then. And I would encourage you to continue a beautiful self-care routine, maybe even add to it if you can, and take time to spend more time with the people around you that you love, that feel fulfilled to you, that when you hang out with them, you're just like, yeah, you lead it forward. And maybe less time with people that are that you feel drained about.
That drain you. I have a whole chapter about that, and down here next about releasing those people that don't bring you energy. They suck energy, right? Latha J, you have been such a joy. I have learned so much. I know the folks listening have as well. Be good to yourself. Give yourself compassion and grace. Find time every day to spend really thinking about what are you choosing next for yourself and putting that into the universe, committing to that, and just watch the fruits of that time and energy that you will be spending really change your life in the most positive of ways. So thank you so much for listening. Until next time, you've got this.
That concludes today's episode of Climbing the Corporate Ladder Without Breaking a Heel with me, your coach and host, Dr. Cynthia. Congratulations on choosing to invest in yourself. I know your time is precious, so thank you for spending a little bit of it with me. I believe in helping you step forward, look up, and realize your full potential. So if today's episode resonated with you, I'd be so grateful if you can rate and comment on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you tuned in. And if you know someone who would benefit, please share this episode with them. Before you go, fuel your next step. Grab a copy of Now You're Next or pre-order a copy of Human Capital Investment Strategy, both available online at Amazon. Let's stay connected. Visit me at cynthiabentzen-mercer.com or find me on all the social and follow me at Dr. Cynthia Bentzen-Mercer. Until next time, remember, boldly start working on your future today.